Hey guys, I want to talk about depression. The darkness of depression, I think, is something that many can't understand. The severity of it, how severe it can get, how it can just overtake you in a moment like a storm cloud. How one moment there can be sunshine and you feel okay, and then sometimes in the next moment something can happen and you feel like your whole world has crashed down. I go through this a lot. I haven't spoke on it as much here lately, I know. And I was telling y'all about the job situation in my last video. That has been a real challenge with my depression and my gender dysphoria. Because, well, the job I went to because it was more laid back, but also for safety, of being able to explore myself in a place that was more accepting for people in the LGBTQ community and for people that want to explore possibly being trans or things like that. It was a safe environment. Now I don't feel like it's so safe because the way they hired a hypermasculine type of aggressive person, I don't even think this person's capable of helping women find items for themselves in this store. I don't even think he is secure enough in himself to want to do that. I think he has ulterior motives for wanting to be there, whether it's picking up women or whatever else it may be. I don't know. I don't think they're good motives. But so my job doesn't feel safe anymore because of this person, and they may get rid of him or he may quit soon enough. But this situation really has messed with me with the depression. And what's bad is that I have a different therapist. I spoke about the one I had for around a year, who was fantastic, and we were really more like friends. I feel like we had become pretty close, and she could read me so well and cared and really invested in me. The therapist now, especially the last time I saw her, which was like a little over a week ago, she just had nothing to offer me as far as any kind of feedback on what was going on at work or other personal matters, or the gender dysphoria for that matter. Just seemed, I try to look at it from her side too. My old therapist used to be there like 4 days a week. This one is there 2 days a week and has to work at another office too. She looks burned out to me. Looks like she's overburdened. So I try to look at that, but at the same time, she's telling me, oh, I think you're doing well. You should only come in every 3 weeks, but she's not reading me very well, because if she was reading me if she really knew or was intuitive to what I go through, she would know that it don't take much to make me spiral to want to fall into either drinking addiction if something bad happens, or edging addiction that I've been trying to stay away from, which actually I have again for like now 26 days. I haven't messed with that at all. And I've been practicing semen retention for a very long time. I've actually over a year with that in general. But edging has been a off and on battle. But I'm trying to go days and days longer now without that, because from my experience with it, it brings more balance to my life. There's a lot more to it, but it brings balance, brings more stability when I'm able to hold on to that longer and longer. Not too long ago, I went 56 days. But then I gave in, and as soon as I gave in, things started crashing again. Things were harder. And I've noticed that when I give in to it. So I'm trying to eat better. I have been in some ways, even though I am addicted to chocolate Moose Tracks ice cream. But as I have said before, and actually both of my therapists have said, there are much worse things, and this is very true. But I've been eating more vegetables, more fruit. I try to exercise. I've been trying to do some push-ups. I've been trying to do planks. I've been out at the park when I can. I've been trying to get more sun. Not a ton of sun, but you need a certain amount. I'm a firm believer that we're meant to have a certain amount. We need it for the natural vitamin D. We need it for just our general well-being. It helps us feel better. Our eyes can use some sun. We don't need to be locked in all of the time or just exposed to darkness all of the time. It's just something I've come to understand over time. So I'm trying, but even though I'm trying, the depression still will try to overtake me. I'm prone to it. Been prone to it my whole life. So there'll be people that think you sound good. Anyone with depression's probably dealt with this, or severe depression like myself has probably dealt with this before, where somebody will think, oh, you sound good. You're looking good. But they're seeing you in a very moment. They're seeing you in a moment of time. They're seeing a snapshot of you right then and there. They're not seeing you 5 minutes from then or an hour from then when something could have made you spiral and you seem totally different. Or they talk to you the next day and you sound like you want to just jump off the face of the earth. And you're in some kind of pit of dark and they can't understand it because they don't deal with that. And you don't want to deal with it. You know, people with depression, we don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with that. But it's there. And you become in these moods where if it gets really dark, then you can have thoughts of unaliving, or you can have thoughts of not caring about what happens to you, or you can have thoughts of just giving in to any addiction you've had. You could have thoughts of just giving in into any addiction you have, and just saying the heck with it. Why not? If it takes me out earlier, then oh well. You know, at least I'm numbing out the pain. I'm numbing out. I'm dissociating from these things that keep making me spiral. So people just don't understand. I think a lot of people don't understand because depression isn't always constant. And you have moments of happiness. You can have moments of joy. They can sometimes live for a little long, and then they can sometimes live a little while. And then sometimes they die quickly and you're back in that depressed state again, maybe for an hour, a whole day, a few days. And then that's when you're subject to fall into some addictive pattern that could be destructive. Like for me, last night I was severely depressed for a little while. I went into like wanting to cry and just feeling bad. And I thought about, I haven't edged for 26 days, but I also haven't drank for that long. And I haven't been drinking heavy anyway, but what I've noticed is drinking it makes things worse for me generally. Even if I have 2 or 3, it just seems it can exacerbate the depression, or it can make things spiral worse, possibly. It can make me go into something else, like wanting to edge again, or wanting to expend my when you edge, you're wasting energy. I feel like I've been practicing this sort of thing with holding in practicing semen retention. I've been practicing that around, well, probably about 5 years off and on. And I've seen enough experience, I've had enough experience with it to know there is a loss of energy if you engage in that all the time. There's a loss, I think there's even a loss of health. I've seen it with myself. It seems like I've been more susceptible to colds and sickness before if I engage a lot in all that. My mental health can decline, things like that. So that's why I'm adamant about trying to have more control of myself in those ways and not give in to all of that. And I'm not saying that it's not from me judging somebody else that wants to engage in letting that energy go, or they want to watch porn, or they want to do that. I mean, each to their own. You have to, a lot of people don't even understand if it is, a lot of guys are doing it, they don't even understand if it's hurting them. I just feel like from personal experience of seeing both ends of the spectrum, I think it does harm you. But I'm not judging somebody else that does it. They want to do it, that's their business to do it. I just think that it can be detrimental. And if I'm depressed and I'm in a spiral, then it's easy for me to want to drink, possibly. And then drinking can lead to edging, and it could just lead to me wanting to sit at home and do nothing but think, what's life for? And what's it matter? I'm 50 years old. I've suffered with a lot of this type of stuff throughout my life. I've had various traumas throughout my life. But here's the thing. I'm going to get to a positive side of this. If you are aware of yourself, I feel like, if you have any self-awareness of yourself, say you're mentally ill in any way, say you're going through depression, bipolar, some kind of personality disorder, gender dysphoria, body dysmorphia, anything, if you're going through any of these things or multiple things, a lot of people going through any of this stuff are not aware at all. So it's just a constant battle and a constant spiral. And a lot of people end up on medicines because they're never aware. And the medicine just gives an artificial remedy. It never really corrects the situation. It's just creating artificial chemicals in your body to try to regulate what's going on. But it's really never getting to the root cause of your trauma or solving any of that. So if you're self-aware at all, and you're aware that trauma, facing your traumas, facing what you've been through, working through what you've been through, going to therapy of any kind, trying to do that, trying to find help for yourself. For me, it's also exploring the metaphysical, things like that. Finding deeper meaning to why we're here. In my mind, we're reincarnated here. I believe in past lives. I believe some of my trauma comes from the past life of being a woman, but also many other past lives. But when you're self-aware, you're able to at least look at yourself. If you become aware at all, you can say, okay, I'm depressed. Okay, I feel this way right now. I feel sad. Okay, I'm drinking right now. Should I beat myself up for drinking? Okay, I'm edging right now. Should I beat myself up for this behavior I don't want to do? No. The difference is you're aware. So if you're aware, you could say to yourself, okay, I see what I'm doing, and I know I'm doing this to dissociate right now. I'm going to go ahead and do what I'm doing, but I'm also going to be aware that I'm dissociating from myself. I'm abandoning myself right now because of some trauma I'm not facing, because of some fear I'm not facing, because of something that's happened in my past I'm not facing and I'm not looking at. I'm using alcohol, or maybe in someone's case they're using drugs, or I'm using sex, or I'm using whatever else, corn, I'm using all these things to not face any of this. If you're aware, that's a start. That's what I've discovered. If you're aware, that's a start. And why is it a start if you're still engaging in things that can be detrimental? It's a start because you're going to pick yourself back up over and over again. And that's what I find myself doing. It's like I know, because I'm aware, I know I'm doing things to dissociate, and I know deep down I really don't want to do that. I want to be better. I keep picking myself back up again. It's why I fought back at work. I didn't want to just run off from my job because some bully got hired that's trying to cause a bunch of trouble. Like I said, though, if it got dangerous or safety was out of control, yeah, I would quit for my own safety. But I'm also, when something like this happens, I believe you should stand up for yourself and not let somebody like that has insecurity problems and their own mental illness they're not facing run you out of your own job, run you out of a job you've been at for almost a year. That's insane. It's insane. A manager hired him. He's hired other people like this. Well, not just like this, but people with serious issues, whether it's stealing or drinking or whatever else, drinking on the job, stealing at the job. He's hired people before this guy. Now he's hired a bully that's probably got some bad motives for why he wants to work there. So because I'm aware, though, like I'll give you an example. If I'd have stood up to a guy like this in the past, when I used to be hyper-masculine and I used to have insecurities, I mean, I still have insecurity, but I'm more aware. That's the thing. But back in the day, I wasn't aware of anything. I would be hyper-masculine, fake facade like this guy to a certain level. I wasn't as mean as him. But if I was still like that, and say I was working at a place like this and somebody got hired like that, it would probably ended up in a bad, really bad way of a brawl, or I could have got hurt, he could have got hurt, we could have both got hurt, could have turned into a screaming match, who knows? But because I'm the way I am now and I've worked on myself so much, I handled it in a calm manner, even though he was being the way he was being. I stood my ground, I stood up for myself, but I handled everything in a calm, rational manner, in a sensible manner, and never blew my top or anything like that, and went to the upper management, went to corporate, did the things I needed to do to protect myself and my job, and took the smart route around his bullshit, because he's not very smart. See, people like that, they're not very, not to say, well, sometimes they can be intelligent if they were to clean their life up or self-reflect, but everything he's doing, he's only going to fool people on the same level as him. He's not going to fool people that are self-aware or working on their own mental health. And I guess my point is, to any of you all out there that are going through this depression, addiction, anything, just know that if you're watching a video like this, you are aware of yourself, and you can just, every time you engage in it, just know you can get up, you can quit when you want, and you can say, okay, I'm going to stop dissociating and abandoning myself, and I'm going to start loving the parts of me that are dissociating. I'm going to love the parts of me that have not been proud of. I'm going to acknowledge that I'm only doing these things to escape myself, and that I can be better, and I can do better, and I can move ahead, and I can keep getting back up. and I can be who I want to be. That's the other thing in my instance with fighting with this guy at work is, well, not fighting, but, standing up to him, is that the old me also would have been wanting to prove something. I'm also masculine. I'm also a man. I would have in the past wanted to prove something to show my masculinity. Now I don't, because I know I'm gender dysphoric, and I often feel female in ways. I still deal with that. I still deal with gender spikes. I'm bisexual. I've accepted all these things. So now when I deal with somebody like this guy, I'm not trying to prove shit. I'm looking at him in some ways feeling sorry, feeling bad for where he's at. But at the same time, I'm not gonna be belittled or pushed down or pushed out of my job for how he's acting right now, some punk, that's coming in thinking he can just come into a place and run off whoever he wants to run off so he can take over or do whatever he wants to do. That's just insane. It's insanity. So when you become aware, that's the other thing. You start accepting yourself, because oftentimes too, you're repressing. If you're not in awareness, you're also repressing parts of yourself that you've abandoned, like I was. You're abandoning sides of you that you act like don't exist, but they do exist. You're not being authentic. That's the key, being authentic. And it takes so much work. And none of us are perfect, and I certainly am not. And it's not about judging people, or it's not about, who's morally right. It's about your quality of life for yourself. What do you want out of life? I mean, yeah, you can stay in the lower vibrations and stay addicted to whatever, but you just got to be aware that you got to be accepting that there's a consequence to it. That's all I'm saying. And I oftentimes want to just do that. I mean, there's times I'm just like, the hell with it. Let's just do that. And I'll accept the consequence. But I know what the consequence is. For me, the consequence of drinking a lot and edging all the time is probably going to be quicker aging, and very likely quicker aging, addicted to lust, and dissociation from myself, and not doing much of anything, and being unhappy and being sad even more and more often. And I owe a lot to my first therapist for helping me work through so much of this, because I had been working on myself off and on before, but being able to go in and actually talk with somebody that was engaging with me and accepting of me and accepting of some of the darkest things I had to say about myself was liberating. And I don't know what I'm going to do with this therapist, because I'm not getting a lot out of it. She only wants to see me every 3 weeks. And like I say, when she sees me, there's not much engagement at all or feedback. I'm thinking of trying to change therapist if it's possible. And I'm going to see about that. But I just want any of you to know, if you really want to change and you're going through anything dark, you can. And if you fall back into a pattern, don't beat yourself up. Just say, you know what? I don't want to do this today. Whatever the addiction is, you're trying to fall back into, if you fall into it, just acknowledge you're doing it. Say, look, okay, I'm doing this today, but I know I'm doing it to abandon something about myself. And then next time it comes around, because you're aware, you may not want to do it. You may say, you know what, I'm going to exercise instead, or I'm going to go walk in the park instead, or I'm going to just think for a minute. I'm going to meditate for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and maybe that thought will dissipate, because it often does. Often the urge for whatever it is dissipates. So anyway, I just want to share a little bit of this because I know many suffer with depression and other things that come along with it, and gender dysphoria, and believe me, I understand. I'll talk to you guys later on. Bye.